Shalom. This is Yair Davidiy speaking from the land of Israel. Today we are going to discuss an important issue concerning the Star of David. The Star of David in Hebrew is called Magen David. Magen David. Magen means shield or shield of. The shield of David. It is connected with the kingdom of David, with King David. Now, there are all kinds of theories, all kinds of explanations of where this symbol originated. And we don't know. No one really knows. But it has traditionally always been associated with the Jewish people. And certain suggestions have arisen in the past which make sense to us and which are logical and which indications from archaeology seem to strengthen the likelihood of this suggestion having something to it. That the Magen David is in effect the two letters of the ancient Hebrew alphabet, and in effect not two letters, but two versions of the same letter interposed upon each other. And this is how in ancient times they would have written, or could well have written, the name David, because that is what they used to do. They used to use symbols. They used to use shorthand, one could say. That was their style of writing. And this is what happened. We have the Star of David. What is the Star of David? The Star of David is in effect two triangles interposed one upon the other and giving us the Star of David. That is what the Star of David is. The simple geometric form of two triangles, one placed upon the top of the other. In ancient times we had the ancient Hebrew alphabet, and this alphabet used the triangle, or a form of the triangle. There are different versions, but often use the triangle to represent the letter Dalet, Daleth, as it's sometimes pronounced, or Dallas, as it might be pronounced in Ashkenazic Hebrew, Daleth. Dalet is the equivalent of D, where we get our letter D from. The English Hebrew, the English alphabet derived from the Latin alphabet, and the Latin alphabet derived from the Greek. And the Greek alphabet is in effect ancient Hebrew alphabet. Ancient Hebrews, the people who lived here, the peoples who were the ancestors of the Israelite nation, they used a certain alphabet of their own, which was similar to that used by the Canaanites. The Canaanites are also known as Phoenicians, and it is accepted that the Phoenicians, or the Hebrews, it could have been the Hebrews, but one of them gave this alphabet to the Greeks, and it's where the Greeks took it from about 500 or more years after the Hebrews had first had it. And this is well worthwhile remembering that the Hebrews had the alphabet at least 500 years before the Greeks did, and the Greeks used the Hebrew alphabet. Now, the Hebrew alphabet used letters that are similar in some ways to the modern Hebrew alphabet, but there's a difference. Several differences. And the modern Hebrew alphabet, they brought it back from Babylon when the Jews were taken into exile to Babylon. And then they returned from Babylon. They brought their type of lettering, an alphabet with them, which is known as the Assyrian alphabet, and was used in the region of Assyria and Mesopotamia, and that is a modern-day Hebrew alphabet that we use today. And why did they change the alphabet? So other different reasons are given. One of the reasons that I saw more than 100 years ago in Poland in a magazine, in a scholarly magazine, he suggested that that when Ezra returned from, or led the Jews back from Babylon, now changes had taken place in the region, and there were all kinds of different peoples wandering around, as we read about in the stories of Ezra and Nehemiah, when they encountered in the land people from Moab, Ammon, Philistines, Canaanites, and all of these peoples, they used the ancient Hebrew alphabet. They were using it. They were using it and they're writing their language in it. And here and there, they had begun to adapt the sounds ascribed to certain of the letters to their own language. And these adaptations or these ascriptions or ascribing of these sounds to the letters was different from that of the Hebrews. But since the Hebrews, as we read in the story of Israel and Nehemiah, this is what happened. They were a minority and they were constantly in contact with these peoples around them and in commerce in all kinds of ways, so interacting with them. And they would very easily have been influenced to accept these adaptations into the Hebrew alphabet, into their own alphabet, if they had kept on using it. So Ezra instituted, or Ezra or his court, or the people around him in his period, the Jews of the time, they adopted this new alphabet that they brought back from Mesopotamia to the Hebrew alphabet, because the signs ascribed to the letters in this new alphabet were universally accepted, were unanimously accepted. There's no disputation about them. There's no controversy about which sounds should be applied to which letters in the new alphabet. And this new alphabet is the alphabet we use today. Is what is known as the Hebrew alphabet, the Assyrian alphabet, sometimes the Ashurut is referred to, meaning Assyrian. And those who claim this is actually the original alphabet of there are those who claim, it is claimed, some of the sages said that this alphabet was actually the original alphabet that the Hebrews had when they came out of Egypt. But for some reason or other they had adopted the Canaanite alphabet. And Ezra simply restored things to how they originally had been. This is not as far-fetched as some people might think. There is a possibility, a likelihood that this is indeed what happened. It doesn't really matter. For the sake of the present discussion, we are merely referring to the fact that the time in question, when the Hebrews came into the land of Israel, or when we find the first inscriptions in ancient Hebrew script, they are using what is known as the paleo-hebrew, or paleo-hebrew, or Canaanite, or Phoenician alphabet, which are all names for the same alphabet, for the same ancient scripture. And in this alphabet, the letter, Dalet, meaning D, was represented by a triangle. And here we have inscriptions. We have inscriptions from Till Dan of the Galilee. In the Galilee, where they found an inscription mentioning the house of David, the ruling house of David, and this inscription dates from about 841 BCE. And there we see here the name, the expression house of David, and we see how David is written. And this is how David is written in this alphabet. Dalet Vav Dalet, that is how it's written. Elsewhere we find in Isbat Sata, near Afek. Afek is in the mountains of Samaria. It is not far away from Shiloh, from the ancient Israelite center of Shiloh. And in this place they also found an inscription of an ancient Hebrew script. And this ancient Hebrew script has letters from the Hebrew alphabet, and it runs both ways. It runs from left to right, and then from right to left. This is known as boustrophon. The same system, the same practice is known from the ancient Greeks. The ancient Greeks also used this system, but they used it 500 years later after this inscription. In other words, the Hebrews were the first ones to use the system, and we see here that the script could be used from left to right or from right to left, and when it was used one way or the other, so too the direction of the letters was changed to which direction you're using the script in. And so too we have the Geza alpha, the Geza inscription. The Geza inscription is also in the same area. It's in the center of Israel, Gaza. It's a famous kibbutz there now. And you can go and see archaeological findings. And they too found an inscription from about 800 BCE. And there, the letters are Hebrew, but they are running from left to right, as in English, as in ancient Greek, and not as in modern-day Hebrew, which goes from right to left. And so we see that these Hebrew inscriptions in ancient times could go from one way or the other. sometimes they'd use it this way, sometimes that way. And therefore they could switch it around. Therefore they were quite elastic in this point of view. Therefore they could take the dalet and use it this way, or put two dalets, two versions of this letter D dalet, one on top of each other, thus creating a symbol representing the name of David. Dalet in Hebrew is spelled D-V-D, D-V-D, and that is its equivalence in Hebrew letters, D-V-D. The V is a semi-vowel sound which in Hebrew script or in Hebrew thought could be eliminated if necessary. It wasn't essential to the word, so you could have DD represented David. So if you had DD representing David and you wanted to write it in shorthand, you could take these letters dalet and use one going from left to right and one from right to left, and then switch them over and then put one on top of the other, and you have a Magen David. And if you wanted to put a symbol up which would have the name David, which everyone would know represented David, you could use this symbol, Magen David, the shield of David representing King David. So that is the suggestion which in our eyes has a strong probability, and it's worth considering. May the Lord God of Israel bless you. Thank you.